of the critics of the president, of course, Bishop Kukah, in his Easter message, this is what he said, and he has also recognized that the presidency and President Muhammad Buhari also recognized that he's being a very critical observer of the time of the president in office. This is what he said about the president. Let me allow you to respond to this quickly, Mr. Adeshina. And so he says, as you prepare to return to Daura or Kaduna, I do not know if you feel fulfilled or that you met the tall dreams and goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry, defeating corruption, bringing back our girls, belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody, selling off our presidential fleet and traveling with us, etc.
Yeah, yes, I think Bishop Kukah cooks very bad meals, and they are not appetizing at all. Somebody has said it's even better that he puts off his cassock and becomes a full-time politician. He's rather too partisan. If you look at those things one by one, if you can display them one again, we can take them one by one. Those things don't do credit to Father Kukah's intellectual posture. He is somebody that we had always admired for his intellectual bent, but his opinions have been colored by politics. He talked about selling presidential fleet. Was that ever promised? Was that ever promised? You know that in 2015, there were a rash of promises made that even the candidate then did not know about. So how can you start claiming that he promised that? Can he prove anywhere where the president... Okay, one by one, see, the goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry. Now the question is, are we where we were on the issue of banditry? Are we where we were in 2015? The job is not fully done, but are we where we were? If Father Kukah is true to himself and true to his calling as a cleric, he will know that this country is not where it was in terms of banditry as at 2015. Defeating corruption. Which country ever defeats corruption? Which country ever defeats corruption? Even China, where they execute corrupt people, the fact that they keep executing shows you that corruption is not defeated. No country defeats corruption. You can curb it, you can minimize it, but he used the word defeating corruption. I think Father Kukah is rather disappointing in those choice of words. Then bringing back our girls. How many of those girls were taken away in 2014? And how many have been recovered? He should even praise the government for recovering a large number of those girls. Were the girls even spirited away under President Buhari? No, but the girls are Nigerians, and the president did his level best, bringing more than 100 of those girls back. And then belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody. So who does he say the president belongs to now? He needs to make that clear. Selling off our presidential fleet, I addressed that earlier. Let him prove that the president made that promise.
So let's take it from one after the other. So belonging to everyone and belonging to no one statement. But there are a lot of the critics of this government that said this is one of the most nepotistic government in terms of appointment and all that Nigeria has had in recent time. How do you defend that? No need to defend what you say critics have said. Critics will always be there. And they will criticize because there's their job, there's a pastime. But what are the facts? What are the facts if you are disputing, for example, what someone like Bishop Kukah has said? So what are the facts that this government wasn't nepotistic in his appointment and in his view of allowing Nigerians to participate in the scheme of things?
The thing about critics is that they hear themselves. They hear themselves only. They don't hear alternate voices. In 2018 or 2019, we came out with a checklist of all appointments made under President Buhari nationwide. And do you know the state that had the highest? Ogun State. I think the second highest state is maybe Imo State. Katsina, where the president comes from, is in number 5 or 6. We came out with that checklist, but people like Father Kukah and other critics don't listen to others. They listen to themselves, and nothing else matters to them.
So, I mean, people will make easy reference to the appointment of those who are in the security, some of the service chiefs and the hierarchy in the security apparatus, those who head different sectors of our security in the country, different agencies, and they will say they have come from a certain region of the country. And this is one major issue that has been drawn, and that have been that characterized the criticism on the nepotism that has been ascribed on this government.
Security is something you don't subject to politics. Security is you bring your best foot forward. And look at the echelon of the heads of security agencies since 2015. Would you honestly say they have all been from one part of the country? Who was the chief of naval staff in the first term of this administration? Was it not a man from Cross River State? Who was the Inspector General of Police at that time? Was it not a man from Edo State, Solomon Arese? So security is something that you do based on the best and the brightest, because all you want is for your country to be secure. The president usually says, unless you have secured a country or even an organization, you cannot efficiently manage it. So you get the best that can help you secure a country. That's the thing about security. People who begin to subject the headship of security agencies to where does it come from, they don't know what security is all about.
So, okay, now let's look at it. If you say you look at about 10 security agencies in this country, and almost 7 out of that are being headed by people from one region of the country, are you saying there are no capacity in other parts of the country? Just only one region of the country that has capacity. This is the argument and the debate by those who have criticized this government.
You are back to what I've just said.
You probably will need.
You are back to what I've just said. Don't subject security to ethnic balancing. Don't subject security to federal character. In fact, the Constitution that prescribes federal character even gives the president some prerogatives that he can appoint on his own. What the Constitution requires of you is balancing in terms of each state being represented in terms of certain positions. Most of those positions are prescribed. Security is not part of it. A president will always have the prerogative to appoint those he feels can help him secure the country and have the kind of country he desires to have.
Now, let me go that security area. Let me bring something to your mind, Mr. Adeshina. Between 29th of May 2015 and 29th May 2022, 55,430 people were killed by terrorist groups and criminal gangs operating across the country. In 2021 alone, 3.2 million Nigerians had been displaced from their homes. These are surveys done by a security agency. Now, in the security area, the president has been criticized for failing to adequately address the security challenges facing Nigeria as one of the main pivots of the promises that he made when he was getting into office, particularly the issue of the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast region and the rising cases of banditry. In fact, when the president got into office, things that got worse was issue of banditry, kidnapping, and farmer-elder clashes in other parts of the country. It's just about 50 days to his exit in office. Would you say to Nigerians tonight that he's being able to meet his promises and the number of deaths that we have incurred or experienced in the last eight years was something that Nigerians could easily pardon for a leader who promised to deal with insecurity?
You have quoted those figures. Do you also know of a report which says that in the past 10 or about 12 years in Nigeria, that 2002 2022, rather, last year, was the year that recorded the least number of deaths in terms of insurgency and insecurity. Are you aware of that report? You are not quoting that report because it doesn't serve your purpose. What serves your purpose is the negative one. But we know that in this country, the figure has been coming down progressively over the years. And it's a fact of history. Nobody can change it.
It's interesting that you know my purpose, Mr. Adeshina, but you have gotten it so wrong. That is not my purpose. I'm reeling out the lives of people that have been lost. These are not trees. These are not firewood. These are real human beings, Nigerians, who have legitimate right under the Constitution to live their lives, but their lives are being cut short. You are to explain to Nigerians because your government promised that you're going to deliver. My purpose as a journalist tonight is to ask those questions to allow you to explain to Nigerians whether or not your government has been able to meet up the expectations of Nigerians or you are failing your duty. You will need to help you to tell Nigerians whether or not there are successes and there are failures. Tonight, what do you tell Nigerians, Mr. Adeshina?
When you consider lives that have been lost. No life, ideally, should be lost, not a single one. One life lost is too many. Not one life should be lost. But then, when reports tell you that between 2015 and 2021, so number of lives were lost, and in 2022, the lowest figure came up. It calls for something positive. You don't ignore it. You don't ignore it. You have to take the whole thing together. Not just take what you want to highlight and leave the positive. No.
I mean, I would have loved to go deeper and deeper because this, I mean, it's an emotional one for a lot of people. Some of them who are their family members kidnapped and killed. But the question I'm asking you tonight is to tell Nigerians the money that has been invested in the last 8 years, the effort has been made, vis-a-vis the promises that have been made. Nobody is taking you up on what you did not say you will do. We're taking you up on what you promised Nigerians that you will do. And this, you are exiting office. You need to be accountable to Nigerians that you are leaving Nigerians better than you left it. Have you?
Far better. Far better. And I said it at the beginning. In 2015, we knew where Nigeria was. Minimum of 17 local governments in this country were under the control of insurgents. Talking of control, I mean they were sitting in emir's palaces. They were sitting in the seat of the local government chairman. NYSC could not do orientation. They could not even post people to those places. Is that what happens today? No, the emirs are back in their palaces. Local government chairmen are back in their offices. NYSC orientation is happening in those states, and coppers are being posted to those states. Are you now telling me that there has been no improvement? No, let's be factual. As they say, let's cut the government some slack. Please.
I mean, I love to touch on a lot of places, but if you dwell on the security areas and the fact that we have, only that you just want an alternative figures, but these are official figures that I've read out to you. But Mr. Adeshina, you touched on, because when you were making reference to Bishop Kukah, you made reference to when he talked about the presidential fleet. Your colleague, Mr. Garba Shehu, this is what he said. In 2016, he says that Mr. Garba Shehu said, when the president campaigned to be president, the then APC candidate Muhammadu Buhari, if you recall, promised to look at the presidential air fleet with a view to cutting down on waste. His directive to a government committee on this assignment is that he'd like to see a compact and reliable aircraft for the safe airlift of the president, the vice president, and other government officials that go on special mission. This exercise is by no means complete. And look at what we are experiencing. Under the Buhari regime, the presidential air fleet has so far cost taxpayer a total of over 40 billion naira, contrary to the promise that had been made before 2015, that there will be a cut in cost. So when Bishop Kukah made that mention, You dismissed it, but these are the facts. These
and
are the words of your colleague Garba on this matter.
That statement you read out does not in any way countermand what I have said. He said the president promised to look at the fleet. Where was the promise to sell off all the planes? Was it in that statement? What Nigeria?
Your party had said.
Wait,
Mr. Adeshina, your party has said it. And if we dwell into that, we might dig deeper. Just for a moment, let me put it in perspective. Your party has criticized the past government before you got into office. This was before 2015, before you got into office, and your party made a promise. In fact, I had interviews on this matter when you said that the presidential fleet was too much, and you guys were going to cut down on it. So the question is that are you keeping up to that promise?
I'm sure you will let me talk. When you talk, I don't interrupt you. That statement.
Go ahead, please.
That statement you read said President Buhari promised to look at the presidential fleet, which he did. Helicopters were given to the Air Force. I think 2 or 3 jets were sold off. That is looking at it and cutting off excesses. What some people expect is for the president to sell off all the jets and then he starts flying Nigeria Airways, if Nigeria Airways still exists. We know that British leaders don't fly private jets, they fly the British Airways and all that. There are countries like that. If that is what you want for your country, no problem. President Buhari is not the profligate type. If what the country has decided is that the president must travel in commercial flights, he will gladly do. But the promise was, we will look at the fleet. And it was looked at. I know of 2 or 3 helicopters that were given to the Air Force. I know of about 2 jets that were sold. So, was that promise not kept? We will look at it. And it was done.
Mr. Adeshina, because we're out of time now, but when you said that you are leaving Nigeria better than you left it. So in terms of the economy, because a lot of people will not forgive me if I don't touch on the issue of the economy. And so I'd like you to put it in perspective what you mean by this. Because the government has also been criticized by economists to say that it's handled the economy badly, particularly the issue of the high rate of inflation, unemployment rate, and the slow economic growth. Mr. Adeshina, the figures before your government got into office, perhaps if I remind you, before you got into office, inflation rate is about 9%. It's way over 20% right now. Unemployment rate, 8.19%. It's over 33% right now. Debt profile in the country was about 12 trillion. You know the figures. So when you say to Nigerians tonight that you are leaving Nigeria better than you left it, would you like to adjust that statement or you stand on that?
No, I won't, because this government made a monoproduct economy, an economy that depended solely on oil. So that anytime oil prices fell, oil prices crashed in the international market, Nigeria crashes with it. But today is no longer so. Oil contributes less than 10% of our GDP today. Oil that used to contribute about 90%. For the first time in our history, Nigeria has a diversified economy. Diversification had long been a promise. Today it is no longer a promise. It is reality. It is reality. Oil contributes less than 10% to the GDP of this country today. I think people must credit the Buhari administration for that, because you now have Agric, you now have ICT, you now have manufacturing to an extent. You have so many things contributing to Nigeria's GDP, apart from oil. To the extent that oil, I say again, contributes less than 10% to our GDP. The economy has been diversified, first time in over 60 years. That is something nobody would deny the Buhari administration.